The woman standing at Elena's doorstep was supposed to be her enemy. She was the one who had been sleeping with her husband for the past 2 years. She was the reason her marriage was crumbling. She was the other woman. But as Elena looked into her tear-streaked face that rainy October evening, she realized something that would change everything. This woman wasn't her enemy. She was his victim too. And together, they were about to give Marcus the revenge he never saw coming. Hey everyone, my name is Kalia Rowan, and welcome back to Payback Stories. If you're new here, this is the channel where we share incredible true stories of betrayal, revenge, and justice. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Elena was married to what she thought was the perfect man. Marcus Reynolds was handsome, successful, and incredibly charming. He was the kind of man other women envied her for having. The kind of man who brought flowers home every Friday, who remembered anniversaries, who held her hand in public like he was proud to call her his wife. They met at a charity gala 8 years ago. Elena was working as an event coordinator, running around with a clipboard, trying to make sure everything went smoothly. Marcus was one of the donors, a real estate developer with money, influence, and a smile that could light up any room. When he approached her that night, Elena thought he was going to complain about the seating arrangements. Instead, he asked for her number. 6 months later, they were engaged. A year after that, they were married in a beautiful ceremony on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. Elena thought she had found her forever. She thought she was the luckiest woman in the world. She was completely wrong. For 6 years, Elena lived in what she believed was a dream. They had a beautiful home in the suburbs, a golden retriever named Biscuit who greeted them at the door every evening. They hosted dinner parties with friends and took vacations to places Elena had only seen in magazines. Marcus worked long hours, but Elena understood. Building an empire takes time, he would always say, and she supported him completely. She was the perfect wife in every possible way. She hosted his business dinners with grace. She entertained his clients with charm. She put her own career on hold to be available whenever he needed her. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You sacrifice, you compromise, you trust. And Elena trusted Marcus completely. Even when he started coming home later than usual, she trusted him. Even when the business trips became more frequent, she trusted him. Even when she noticed him guarding his phone like it contained state secrets, she still trusted him. Because he had never given her a reason not to. Or so she thought. The first sign came on a Tuesday afternoon. It was so small, so insignificant, that Elena almost missed it entirely. Marcus had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. It buzzed with an incoming message. Elena glanced at it, not because she was suspicious, but because she was curious if it was something important that needed his immediate attention. The message was from someone saved as Dave from construction. But the message didn't look like it was about construction at all. It read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Miss you already." Elena's heart stopped beating for a moment. Dave from construction was sending her husband messages like this? She wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, but something in her gut twisted uncomfortably. Something felt terribly wrong about the whole situation. When Marcus came out of the shower, Elena asked him casually about Dave. "Oh, that's just my project manager," he said without missing a beat or showing any sign of nervousness. "He's a bit informal in his communication style, but he gets the job done." Elena nodded and smiled. She pretended to believe him completely. But that night, she couldn't sleep at all. Over the following weeks, Elena became a detective in her own home. She hated herself for it, but she couldn't help the growing suspicion that was eating away at her peace of mind. She started paying close attention to the little things that she had previously ignored. The receipts in his pockets that didn't match their usual spending patterns. The mileage on his car that seemed excessive for his claimed destinations. The way he angled his phone screen away from her whenever she walked by. The way he suddenly started taking calls in the other room with the door closed. "Business stuff," he would always say dismissively. "You wouldn't understand the complexities of what I'm dealing with." But Elena understood more than he realized. She was far more observant than he gave her credit for.
The European Commission's invocation of Article 122 emergency powers to indefinitely freeze Russian assets represents an unprecedented expansion of emergency authority that creates constitutional precedents future European leaders could invoke to bypass democratic oversight during other perceived emergencies. This constitutional overreach demonstrates how external pressure from Russian legal warfare forces European institutions to abandon their own legal principles in pursuit of geopolitical objectives, creating the kind of institutional degradation that authoritarian opponents seek to provoke. Now, let me explain the global implications, because this extends far beyond European-Russian relations. China, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other major holders of foreign reserves are undoubtedly studying Russia's legal tactics as potential templates for protecting their own assets from political weaponization by Western governments, while simultaneously reassessing the risks associated with holding substantial reserves in jurisdictions where political considerations can override traditional custody protections. The precedent being established suggests that sovereign asset custody is no longer protected by the legal and institutional frameworks that have governed international finance since Bretton Woods, creating incentives for major reserve holders to diversify away from Western financial institutions toward alternative custody arrangements that provide stronger protection against political appropriation. This diversification process, already visible in central bank gold purchases and alternative payment system development, will likely accelerate as the Russia-Europe legal warfare demonstrates that even the most sophisticated Western financial institutions cannot guarantee the security of client assets when those institutions become instruments of government policy. Russian success in weaponizing international legal systems also provides a blueprint for other authoritarian regimes to exploit democratic commitments to rule of law and due process, potentially creating cascading legal challenges across multiple jurisdictions whenever Western governments attempt to impose economic sanctions. The Trump administration's 28-point plan proposing distribution of frozen Russian assets among Ukraine, Russia, and the United States represents American recognition that European asset seizure plans have failed, and alternative arrangements must be developed that bypass European institutional paralysis. American pressure for European asset seizure simultaneously weakens European political cohesion while providing Russian legal warfare with additional legitimacy as a defensive response to American financial coercion. When I project forward from current trajectories, I see European leaders trapped between impossible alternatives, where asset seizure creates potentially catastrophic legal vulnerabilities, while abandoning asset seizure represents political humiliation and strategic defeat. Russia's legal warfare strategy succeeds regardless of ultimate court decisions, because the litigation process itself creates sufficient uncertainty and institutional stress to prevent effective European action. The January 16, 2026 preliminary hearing will likely be followed by years of additional litigation across multiple jurisdictions as Russia systematically challenges every aspect of European asset management decisions. The profound irony of this situation cannot be overstated. Europe's attempt to use frozen Russian assets to demonstrate Western resolve and capability has instead revealed fundamental Western vulnerabilities that authoritarian opponents can exploit through patient legal warfare that turns democratic institutions against themselves. Russia's legal gambit represents not merely tactical cleverness, but strategic insight into the structural weaknesses of democratic systems when confronted by opponents who can weaponize legal pluralism against institutions that remain constrained by their own commitments to rule of law. The ultimate lesson extends beyond Russian-European relations to encompass broader questions about democratic resilience in an international system where legal warfare enables authoritarian regimes to exploit the very institutional characteristics that democratic societies consider essential for legitimate governance, creating systematic disadvantages that may prove decisive in long-term geopolitical competition. Future historians may identify Russia's Euroclear lawsuit as a turning point when authoritarian legal warfare demonstrated its capacity to neutralize democratic economic advantages through systematic exploitation of legal vulnerabilities that democratic systems cannot eliminate without abandoning the institutional commitments that define democratic governance itself. That's all for today's investigation. If this analysis opened your eyes to what's really happening in global finance and geopolitics, smash that like button and subscribe to Norton Investigates. We'll continue following this story as it develops. Until next time, stay informed and stay vigilant.
What Rachel revealed next was almost too much for Elena to process. Marcus wasn't just having a simple affair, he was running an elaborate network of deception that spanned years. Rachel had recently discovered that there was another woman named Jessica that Marcus was also seeing. And before Jessica, there had been a woman named Amanda. And before Amanda, there had been someone named Lisa. The pattern went back years and years. Marcus had been doing this for most of his adult life. He had perfected a system of charming women, making them fall deeply in love with him, using them for whatever he needed, and then discarding them when he got bored or when they became inconvenient. He had a pattern and a playbook that he followed with each new target. And all of these women, including Elena and Rachel, were just players in his elaborate game of manipulation. Rachel described Marcus as a predator who specifically targeted women who were successful in their careers but lonely in their personal lives. He made them feel incredibly special and chosen, and then he systematically took everything he could from them, whether it was money, emotional support, connections, or simply the satisfaction of control. Rachel revealed that when she tried to leave Marcus after discovering his lies, he threatened her viciously. He told her he would completely ruin her career and reputation. He had powerful connections everywhere in the business community, and Rachel discovered through her own research that he had done exactly this before. He had destroyed the lives of women who tried to expose his true nature. They lost jobs, relationships, and their standing in the community. Rachel grabbed Elena's hand and explained that she came to Elena's house because she desperately needed her help, and because she believed Elena needed hers just as much. That night, Elena and Rachel talked for hours without stopping. They shared their stories of falling for Marcus's charm. They shared their pain of discovering his betrayal. They shared their humiliation and their fears about the future. And as they talked openly and honestly, something completely unexpected happened between them. They became allies united by a common cause. They realized together that alone, they were weak and vulnerable. Marcus could easily manipulate them individually, threaten them into silence, and destroy their lives one by one. But together they represented something powerful that he couldn't control. They made a decision that night to find the other women who Marcus had victimized over the years. They would find Jessica, Amanda, Lisa, and anyone else who had suffered at his hands. The search took several weeks of careful investigation, but one by one, they tracked down each woman through social media, mutual connections, and public records. And one by one, each woman they contacted agreed to join their cause after hearing about the others. There were 7 women in total when they finished their search. 7 women who had been systematically lied to by the same man. 7 women who had been used for his benefit. 7 women who had been discarded like garbage when he was done with them. 7 women who were absolutely tired of remaining silent about what he had done. 7 women who were ready to work together for the revenge and justice they all deserved. The group of women met in secret locations, never the same place twice. They planned their strategy in whispers, always aware that Marcus had spies everywhere in the business community. They gathered evidence from each of their experiences with him. They collected emails, text messages, bank records showing financial manipulation, photographs, and written testimonies documenting his behavior patterns. Marcus had been sloppy over the years because he was incredibly arrogant and believed he was untouchable. He never imagined in his wildest dreams that his victims would somehow find each other. He never imagined they would band together and fight back against him. The plan they developed was simple in concept, but potentially devastating in execution. Marcus was about to close the biggest business deal of his entire career. He was forming a partnership with a major international investment firm that would be worth millions of dollars and cement his reputation forever. The deal required him to maintain a completely spotless reputation because the overseas investors were old-fashioned and extremely conservative in their values. They valued family stability, personal integrity, and trustworthiness above almost everything else in their business partners. These powerful investors had absolutely no idea who they were really planning to do business with, but they were about to find out the truth in the most public way possible. The night of Marcus's big announcement gala finally arrived. He was hosting an elaborate celebration at the Grand Hotel downtown. All of his important business partners were in attendance. The investors from overseas sat at the head table. Members of the press filled the back of the room with cameras ready. Everyone who mattered in Marcus's professional world was there to witness his triumph. He stood on the elevated stage, looking incredibly handsome and confident in his expensive, custom-tailored suit, delivering a speech about integrity, trust, and the importance of honest business partnerships. The irony of his words was almost too much for Elena to bear. Elena was there too, of course. She was playing her familiar role of the supportive and adoring wife. She smiled perfectly for all the cameras that flashed in her direction. She looked every bit the part of the proud spouse. But behind her practiced smile was a secret that would soon be revealed. 7 women had managed to slip into the gala unnoticed through various entrances. 7 women with a shared mission burning in their hearts. 7 women who were ready and eager to watch Marcus fall from his pedestal. The moment of revelation came during the champagne toast near the end of the evening. Marcus raised his crystal glass high, thanking his investors for their trust and confidence in him. To new beginnings, he proclaimed loudly. To partnerships built on honesty and mutual respect. That's precisely when every large display screen in the grand ballroom suddenly flickered and changed. Instead of showing the company logo and celebratory graphics, they began displaying something entirely different. A video montage began playing on every screen simultaneously. It showed photographs of Marcus with different women in romantic situations. It displayed screenshots of his incriminating messages declaring love to multiple women at the same time. It played audio recordings of his lies and manipulations. All of the evidence that the 7 women had painstakingly gathered was now being displayed for every person in that ballroom to witness. The entire room fell completely silent. Marcus's face went pale white with shock and horror. He fumbled desperately with his phone, trying to stop the presentation, but he couldn't regain control. The evidence was everywhere he looked. It was on every screen in the room. It was simultaneously being posted to social media platforms. It was being broadcast live to thousands of people watching online. The international investors stared at the screens in absolute horror at what they were witnessing. The press photographers immediately started snapping photographs of Marcus's panicked face. And then, one by one, the 7 women stood up from their scattered seats throughout the ballroom. They walked calmly and deliberately to the front of the room. They arranged themselves in a line, standing tall and facing the man who had tried to destroy each of their lives. Jessica spoke first, introducing herself and explaining how Marcus had told her he loved her and then threatened to completely ruin her career when she tried to end their relationship. Amanda stepped forward next, revealing how Marcus had manipulated her into giving him thousands of dollars for fake business emergencies. Lisa followed, sharing how Marcus had made her believe she was mentally unstable when she questioned his behavior and lies. One by one, each woman stepped forward and shared her story of manipulation and betrayal. Finally, it was Elena's turn to speak. She introduced herself as the woman who had been legally married to Marcus for 6 years. She explained that she had given him everything she had, including her career, her independence, and her complete trust. And he had repaid her devotion with nothing but lies and betrayal. Elena looked directly into Marcus's eyes as she spoke her final words to him in front of everyone. She said she wasn't there seeking petty revenge. She was there for the truth. And now everyone in that room and watching online knew exactly who Marcus Reynolds really was behind his charming facade. The aftermath of that evening was immediate and catastrophic for Marcus. The international investors pulled completely out of the partnership deal before the night was over. Marcus's longtime business partners publicly distanced themselves from him within days. His carefully constructed reputation, which he had spent years building brick by brick, crumbled completely overnight. The press coverage was relentless and unforgiving. The story went viral across the internet within hours. 7 women exposing a serial cheater and manipulator became headline news everywhere. The women became symbols in the media. Not symbols of petty revenge, but of justice finally being served. They represented solidarity and the power of women supporting other women in their darkest moments. Marcus attempted desperately to fight back against the accusations. He hired expensive lawyers and public relations specialists. He threatened lawsuits against everyone involved. But the 7 women had documentation and evidence for every single accusation they had made. Each claim was backed by concrete proof that couldn't be disputed. Marcus couldn't silence 7 united voices. He couldn't bury 7 documented stories. He couldn't manipulate or charm his way out of accountability this time. Within several months, Marcus's entire empire collapsed completely. Every business partner he had abandoned him. His assets were frozen, pending investigations into his financial dealings with the various women. And Elena's divorce? Her lawyer made absolutely certain that she received everything she legally deserved after years of being deceived. The house became hers, the investments were divided fairly, the life that she had helped Marcus build was now hers to keep and rebuild. Perhaps the strangest and most unexpected part of this entire story is that Elena and Rachel became genuine friends. Real friends who trusted and supported each other completely. The woman who Elena initially thought was her worst enemy became one of her closest allies and confidants. They supported each other through all of the chaos that followed the gala. They helped each other navigate the intense media attention. They sat together through the court proceedings. They celebrated each other's victories in the healing process. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, Elena and Rachel would sit together on Elena's porch with glasses of wine and shake their heads at the strange journey that brought them together. Elena would say that if someone had told her a year ago that she would be sitting there with Rachel as a friend, she would have thought they were completely insane. Rachel would laugh and agree that if someone had told her she would be helping the wife take down the man she thought she loved, she would have called them absolutely crazy. But life is strange and unpredictable in ways we can never anticipate. And sometimes, the greatest allies in our lives come from the most unexpected places imaginable. Elena would be dishonest if she claimed that the revenge made everything instantly better. It didn't solve all of her problems or heal all of her wounds. There were still many nights when she cried herself to sleep. There were still moments when she wondered if she had wasted the best years of her life on a man who never deserved a single day of her devotion. There was still deep pain that took time to process. There was still the weight of betrayal that sat heavy on her heart. There was still grief for the life she thought she was living and the future she thought she would have. But alongside the pain, there was also something new growing inside her. There was strength she never knew she possessed. There was pride in how she had handled an impossible situation. There was the profound knowledge that she had faced the worst thing that had ever happened to her, and she had not only survived, but thrived. Elena returned to her career with renewed energy and purpose. She rebuilt her professional reputation and rediscovered who she was before she became Mrs. Marcus Reynolds. She reconnected with old friends and made new ones. She found joy in small things again. And Elena learned something incredibly important through everything she experienced. You cannot control what other people choose to do to you. You cannot prevent betrayal from happening if someone is determined to betray you. You cannot stop someone from breaking your heart if that is their intention. But you can absolutely control how you respond to those painful experiences. You can choose to remain a victim forever, or you can choose to become a survivor who grows stronger. Elena chose to be a survivor. Looking back now, Elena says she doesn't regret a single thing that happened. Not the years she spent with Marcus, not the pain of discovering his betrayal, not even the elaborate and public revenge that exposed him to the world, because all of those experiences led her to exactly where she is today. They led her to a life that is authentically and completely her own. They led her to friendships that are real and supportive. They led her to discover a strength and resilience she never knew she possessed. Marcus Reynolds lost everything that mattered to him in the end. He lost his thriving business. He lost his respected reputation. He lost his power and influence over others. The last anyone heard, he had moved to another state entirely to start over from nothing. He became a nobody after years of being someone important. And Elena? She kept the house. She kept her dignity and self-respect. She kept Biscuit the dog, who is doing wonderfully, by the way. And she kept her newfound family of 7 women who found each other in their darkest moments and lifted each other toward the light.
So that is Elena's incredible story, everyone. The story of how a husband's mistress helped a betrayed wife get the perfect revenge on the man who had hurt them both. Not through violence or hatred, but through truth, solidarity, and the simple but powerful act of refusing to remain silent any longer. If you made it all the way to the end of this story, I want to thank you so much for watching. This is Kalia Rowan from Payback Stories, and I have one small request before you go. Please share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Someone who might be suffering in silence right now. Someone who thinks they are trapped in a situation with no way out. Tell them there is always another way forward. Tell them they are not alone in their struggles, and tell them that their story is far from over. It's really just beginning. If this story moved you or inspired you in any way, please hit that subscribe button and join the Payback Stories family. We post new stories every single week. Stories of betrayal and justice. Stories of revenge and redemption. Stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary strength in their most difficult moments. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done if you were in Elena's situation. I read every single comment and I love hearing your thoughts and perspectives. Until next time, trust wisely and love carefully. Never underestimate the power of women who choose to stick together and support each other. And always remember that the best revenge is becoming the person you were always meant to be. I will see you all in the next video. Take care of yourselves.